We're talking to one AI company about running their GPUs in immersion fluid. We're trying to test to see how much more efficiency and usability those GPUs would have in immersion. And it's just a pilot, but if it turns out to be something, for overclocking and GPUs would be a pretty exciting story for AI. We're still a Bitcoin company, but I've said it before, like these AI companies are way better host clients. They pay a lot more.
Hey everybody, it's Stuart Smith with SmallCapVoice.com, and I'm so glad you decided to join us today as we are speaking to one of our return guests and longer time clients, and that is Jonathan Bates, who's fresh from the road. He's been in Atlantic City, he's been in New York, he made it home safe to California. Bitmine Immersion Technologies is traded on the OTCQX, right? We've got that designation for the company under the ticker symbol BMNR. Jonathan is the CEO. Jonathan, welcome back and thanks for making time for us.
Thank you.
So Jonathan, tell me about it. You were at the Microcap conference in Atlantic City. That was first. Then I know you made the short trip over to New York City. Talk to me about why you hit the road like that. Obviously, the Microcap conference, we understand you were trying to raise awareness for your company and its story, because we've been telling that. I mean, you are, and I hate to use this cliche, you are truly the undervalued gem, especially when we talk about where your company is positioned with what's going on right now with Bitcoin. So I know I've put a lot out to you there, but the floor is yours. Let's hear it from you.
Thanks. Yeah. So, I've discussed, in our previously filed 10Q about how November was the big month where we got a number of machines online. I think it's somewhere in the 1,400, 1,500 machines range. That was quite a substantial increase from the previous quarter. And the last quarter only reflected really one good substantial month. But, between that month where I think it was around 8 Bitcoins and December, obviously the price went up a lot. If you look at the price action between November and December, and it's kind of hung in there pretty much since December, January, February. So we're tracking the same, and this is just from, we still have capacity and undeployed capacity as well. So, you can sort of put the pieces together to see that we're tracking in that, 8 Bitcoin a month, 7, 8, 9, whatever kind of Bitcoin a month. Do the math, and we're not gonna. I don't think we'll quite reach 1 million this quarter that ends this month, end of February, but it'll be pretty close, and that's good for us, And if you just even annualize that out, which we have the halving coming up, but we also have plans to boost up our revenue to offset that. So if you just annualize that out, we're trading at a revenue multiple that's in line with or cheaper than the largest miners. However, these guys, they have hundreds of thousands of machines. Like, it's going to be hard without the price going up. It's going to be hard for them to move the needle on the revenue side. Whereas for us, it'll be a lot easier, a lot less difficult. It's never easy to increase revenue, right? But it's a lot easier to go from 4 million to 24 million than it is to go from 300 million to 3 billion. It's just not, it takes some orders of magnitude.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you pointed that out. And boy, you shot a lot of stuff back at me. So kudos to you. I gave you a lot to talk about. So let me just kind of do a refresh and a summation on what you just said, because you just gave us revenue guidance, and I don't even know that I was prepared for that. So that's exciting. So looking at where the company is tracking for, it sounds like around, as you put it, about $1 million or just underneath that. Annualized, you're looking at a $4 million run rate. And you're absolutely right with where your stock is priced right now. And I'll bring up somebody like Riot, ticker symbol RIOT. You're at under $1, and you're talking about going from potentially at some point, it's a lot easier, as you said, to go from 4 million to 24 million. The influence on your stock price would be supremely dramatic at that point. So that's huge news. Now, last time we spoke to you as well, you gave us an update and you had brought on another location. We talked about that in depth, and that was Kentucky. But before we go on to those locations, so what took you to New York City then? If the Microcap conference got you to Atlantic City, what got you to New York City? And what a great time with Bitcoin hitting these highs it's hitting lately for you to be there on Wall Street.
I packed my days with more or less just meetings with investment bankers and large investors that might help us with an uplisting. That's what the whole time. I mean, I had nonstop meetings. Some were better than others. Some of them were great. Some of them were a waste of time. But but I made sure the agenda was full, and it was I feel good about our opportunity to get to either to NYSE or NASDAQ, because we're in the right business. It's the right time. We don't actually need to achieve that many more things regarding governance and non-affiliate shareholders to do it. So we found some investment banks we're thinking of working with. We're considering who to speak to now about engagements on this right now. So that's what I was doing. I'm trying to get us to the next level.
Well, very good. And one of the things that's going to get you to the next level is super overclocking. And that's something we discussed last time, a term that was new to me. I don't know if it's something that the bigger players with so many machines are capable of doing, but you're upping your yield in short and able to produce more Bitcoins this way. So that's important. But something else we talked about that's going to help your company is alternative revenue streams. There's ways for you to make money outside of Bitcoin. I know we touched on that before, but just briefly touch on that so new viewers, new listeners might understand that your company is far from a one-trick pony.
So there's been a couple of things. We're running data centers, albeit I'd say smaller deployments, but they could be scaled. We're talking to one AI company about running their GPUs in immersion fluid. Whether that we're trying to test to see how much more scale or much more efficiency and usability those GPUs would have in immersion, and it's just a pilot. But if it turns out to be something, hey, overclocking in GPUs would be pretty exciting story for AI. And we're still a Bitcoin company, but I've said it before, like these AI companies are way better host clients. They pay a lot more. I mean, you look at the cost of the data center world, and I mean, it's a very high margin business. It's substantially higher. If we were going to host, we'd love to just host AI clients if possible. And then outside of that, we also have some really good relationships for reselling machines, and being able to obtain them at a good price and distribute them out at a reasonable price. We're also now, I haven't talked to you about this, but we're exploring different avenues of leasing machines ourselves and deriving the yield off of those, which it's a lot cheaper to lease something than to buy it. Just look at cars and stuff, right? So it could reduce our capex and increase our efficiency, and other forms of just commercial contracts that would allow us access to a much higher amount of mining output. So we're financially creative. We're certainly prudent in how we manage the capital, but we're trying to really achieve all sorts of different ways of substantially increasing the top line revenue. That's what, while not exposing bottom line risk.
Very good. Well, I appreciate that. And you did even tapped on to another revenue stream, and that is that resale market. And it's boded well for you on the flip side of that. You've been able to acquire machines at a nice clip and be able to get a solid ROI on those machines, thereby increasing that Bitcoin output. So let's bring it all back home by talking about Bitcoin. It's the elephant in the room. We see a massive uptick in the value of Bitcoin. In fact, I'm on Twitter, aka X right now, looking at the back and forth between the gold longs, the Bitcoin longs, what's going to crush what in the long term. This is an exciting time to be even in an ancillary market to Bitcoin. So you're immersed. And once again, we always like to ask you, because you predicted and forecasted, as many did, but this halving cycle and where the company is at in regards to that. So with the Bitcoin run up, obviously we heard from you at the outset with the revenue guidance. Revenue is going to be appreciably higher per quarter because of the Bitcoin output you're able to achieve, and with the price going up, wow, that's great. So as someone immersed in this business, how do you see 2024 playing out in Bitcoin itself, and then how is that going to impact your company?
I mean, typically after the halving, which we think will be, late April, maybe even possibly May 1st area. But once it occurs, could be as early as April 20th or area. Once it occurs, the prior cycles, you would generally, it takes about 3 months, maybe 4 months before it really starts to get, the lack of supply really starts to get into the market and move the price up. And so generally there's a few months where most miners are kind of, it takes a pretty big hit. I think we're in actually really good shape. Our power costs are low enough, and just forecasting what it means to our gross profit margin. I think we're going to be cash flow wise okay. We'll be somewhat break even at that point. Depending on which way the price goes. But really, the blossoming of Bitcoin, it generally happens if you look at 2016 going into 17, 2020 going into 21, 24 going into 25. I don't have any reason to think it's not going to be the same as the last two times, which is a little bit of a lag. And you ain't seen nothing yet. Like everyone thinks, wow, look how much it's gone up. Well, it has the potential to go up a lot more, and perhaps this ETF phenomenon has made it an earlier event than normal. Normally you'd have a little more of a lag, but if it hasn't, even if Bitcoin subsides a little bit here during the bull run, whether that's 3 months from now or 6 months from now or whatever, I think 2025 is the peak year. And I think that the ETFs are going to be the driver because, asset managers chase performance. And, once their clients will talk to them about why they don't have them invested in it, now they can buy it in an ETF. So I suspect that's going to be a big part of the price move in our company opinion. So I would expect that to be the gas on the fire.
Well, listeners, once again, we're speaking with Jonathan Bates, a man who is immersed in these markets as the CEO of Bitmine Immersion Technologies, traded on the OTCQX under the ticker symbol BMNR. We've talked about revenue guidance, a healthy jump in that revenue. We've talked about you being in New York City for an uplisting discussion with several different investment bankers, some of those great conversations, some of them, but that's okay. It's music to the ears of all of us wanting to know what's next for the company. And you're talking NYSE potentially, you're talking NASDAQ. I'm looking right now at Investor Place, and I'm looking at 3 stocks poised to double by the end of 2024. And those are stocks trading under $10, which Riot is included in that. Riot's currently at $15. But again, we made the point of you sitting at 60 cents. A jump from 60 cents to $6 is so much more attainable than for a company to go from, let's say, $15 to $30, and same for their revenue run rate as well. And you've given us a lot to think about with the impact of these ETFs on what's going on with the price of Bitcoin and the upcoming halving, which you said was maybe possibly around mid to end April. Jonathan, anything else you want to share with our listeners and viewers as we close out this interview?
Just that, if you're comparing us to everybody else, I'll reiterate, I think we have a lot of opportunities to increase the top line at a much better clip than larger companies can do it. And hopefully that gets reflected in the stock price as we're able to achieve these things. I think we're largely ignored at this point. So as soon as people start to perk up to it, there tends to be a pile-on effect. I hope that's what happens. But take a look at the stock.
Outstanding. We'll take a good look at ticker symbol BMNR for Jonathan Bates. This is Stuart Smith saying, hey, be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and comment to us. What do you want to know more about Bitmine Immersion Technologies? Is there another company in this space or outside of this space you'd like to see us interview? Once again, this is Stuart Smith saying thanks so much for tuning in today to SmallCapVoice.com.